You think your grocery store is always going to have what you need? I thought that too, until about 3 weeks ago. What I discovered completely changed how I see things. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why waiting even another month might not be the smartest move. For the past year and a half, I've been tracking something most people don't even know exists: allocation warnings and distribution alerts. The signals that show what's about to run out before shelves go empty. Right now, those signals are going off everywhere. 11 everyday products, things you probably use every week, are being flagged with warnings professionals usually only see right before supply chains start breaking down. This isn't speculation. It's documented information from the people who move food from factories to your local grocery store. And almost no one outside that industry knows it's happening. Last week, I spoke with a distribution operations manager from one of the largest food companies in the country. Over 20 years of experience. They've seen every shortage. They told me the warnings right now are worse than early 2020. Worse. They showed me internal reports, critical products, reduced capacity, raw material shortages, transportation problems. Then they said something I can't stop thinking about. Anyone who hasn't started building reserves at home is probably going to regret it. After that, I contacted people across food manufacturing, distribution, and retail. Every single one confirmed the same thing. Before we dive in, I made a free emergency food guide. 15 items from stores like Aldi or Walmart that can feed a family for 2 weeks. The link is below. Now let's go through the 11 products you need to pay attention to, starting with the one that surprised me the most. Number 11. Peanut butter. Seems crazy, right? Peanut butter? How could there possibly be supply problems with something this basic? But here's the thing most people don't realize. Peanut production in the U.S. is concentrated in just 4 states: Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and Texas. That's basically it. And those areas have been getting hit with really unstable weather lately. Last year, they had way too much rain during harvest season in Georgia, and it destroyed a huge chunk of the crop. Here's what makes that worse. When peanuts just sit there in wet fields, they start developing something called aflatoxin. It's a toxic mold. Once that happens, those peanuts can't be used for food at all. They have to get destroyed. So right away, you've got less supply available, but then on top of that, peanuts also get processed into peanut oil. And that's in really high demand right now. So when oil prices go up, more and more peanuts get sent over to oil production instead of being turned into peanut butter. A retail manager actually told me flat out that peanut butter is on allocation from several major brands right now. They're literally not getting their full orders. And here's why this actually matters. Peanut butter is ridiculously calorie dense. Just 2 tablespoons gives you about 200 calories and 8 grams of protein. You don't need to refrigerate it, even after you open it. It lasts a really long time. Unopened jars can easily go a year or more, sometimes even 2 years, and you can use it for so many things. We had a power outage last year, and honestly, peanut butter became our go-to food. No cooking needed, lots of energy, and my kids actually wanted to eat it. I keep about 40 pounds of it stored right now. That's roughly 26 big jars. Cost me around $130 to build that up. And I just keep adding more every time I go shopping. Now let me show you something that's even more concerning. Number 10. Coffee. I know. You're probably thinking coffee's not essential. But here's the thing. When you're in a really stressful situation, the psychological boost you get from coffee is actually huge. But beyond just that, coffee is dealing with some of the most serious production problems on this entire list. Coffee only grows in this very specific climate zone they call the coffee belt. It's these equatorial regions that need just the right temperature, the right amount of rain, the right altitude. And climate change is really messing with those areas. Brazil grows about 1/3 of all the world's coffee. Last year, they got hit with these devastating frosts that wiped out massive portions of the crop. Frost doesn't usually happen in those regions, but it's been happening more and more often lately. Vietnam, they're the second biggest producer. They've been dealing with drought problems. Colombia's got excessive rainfall and labor strikes going on. So there's less coffee being produced, but demand just keeps going up. And prices? They're exploding. Over the last 18 months, wholesale coffee prices have gone up more than 70%. I'm not making that up. I've been watching coffee prices at my local stores. A regular 12-ounce bag that used to cost $8 about a year ago, now it's $11. Some of the nicer brands are getting close to $15. So here's what I did. I've got about 60 pounds of coffee stored right now. Mix of whole beans and ground, some regular, some decaf, dark roast, medium, light roast. It cost me around $400 to build that stockpile up. But honestly, the way prices are climbing, that coffee's probably going to be worth a lot more in just 6 months. And beyond just the money aspect, think about the morale factor. During a crisis, being able to start your day with a normal cup of coffee, that gives you this sense of psychological stability. It's just a small piece of normal routine when everything else feels completely chaotic. Storage matters, though. Keep whole beans in airtight containers somewhere cool and dark. For longer-term storage, you can vacuum seal it or use those Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Now let's talk about something you probably use literally every single day. Number 9, butter. Real dairy butter. And the supply problem isn't what most people think it is. Everyone assumes if there's a butter shortage, it must mean there's a milk supply problem. That's not right. There's actually plenty of milk. The real issue is processing capacity and how much profit companies can make. See, manufacturers make way more money when they sell cream for specialty cheese products, premium ice cream, and coffee creamers than they do when they turn it into butter. So when their operating costs start going up, butter production is usually one of the first things they cut back on. Plus, there's labor shortages at these processing facilities, which has really slashed how much they can produce. A distribution rep told me their company actually cut butter production by 15% this year. At the same time, they ramped up production of those higher margin products. And this isn't just one company doing this. This is happening across the whole industry. Most people don't stockpile butter because it's dairy, right? But here's what you need to know. Butter freezes incredibly well. You can freeze butter for up to a year with literally zero loss in quality. I've got 40 pounds sitting in my freezer right now. Just buy butter when it goes on sale. Keep it in the original packaging it came in, then put those wrapped sticks into freezer bags and get as much air out as you can. When you need some, just move a stick to the refrigerator the night before you want to use it. My family honestly can't tell any difference at all. Butter prices swing around like crazy too. Last winter, butter got up to $7 a pound. But I was still using butter I'd bought during the summer months for $3.50. Let me show you something that affects basically every meal you probably cook. Number 8, canned tomato products. Every kind. Diced, crushed, whole, sauce, paste, all of it. California grows about 95% of all the processing tomatoes in the United States. And right now, California's dealing with water allocation restrictions that represent permanent structural changes to how much water agriculture can access. These aren't just temporary drought measures they're putting in place. These are fundamental shifts in how much water farming regions are allowed to use going forward. About 3 weeks ago, I talked to someone who actually operates a farm out in California's Central Valley. This past growing season, their water allocation got cut by 60%. 60%? You just can't keep producing at the same levels when you've got 60% less water to work with. They had no choice but to cut their planted acreage in half. Now think about that reality multiplied across thousands and thousands of farming operations. Total production has dropped dramatically. And here's what someone who manages procurement for a major grocery chain network told me. Their tomato product orders for the next quarter are only being fulfilled at about 67% of what they requested. That means for every 100 cases they order, only 67 cases actually show up. And that fulfillment rate, it's going down month after month. Add to that the tariffs that got put on imported tomatoes from Mexico. Those are still in effect, which means the backup supply that would normally make up for California's shortfall is just too expensive for most retailers to even bother with. Last Saturday, I actually went to 4 different grocery stores specifically to look at their tomato product inventory. 3 of them had noticeably less shelf space dedicated to these products, and several specific varieties were just completely gone. Canned tomatoes are basically the foundation of cooking at home. Every type of chili you make, every soup, every stew, pasta sauce, pizza. If you actually prepare food at home, you're relying on tomato products. I keep at least 100 cans on hand now, spread across different types: diced, crushed, sauce, and paste. It cost me about $80 initially to build that up, but I'm constantly rotating through what I have. 6 months ago, a standard can was priced at 99 cents. Last week, that exact same brand was $1.49. That's a 50% price increase. My approach is pretty straightforward. Every time I go shopping, I pick up 10 more cans. I spread my purchases across different stores, just keeping it consistent and reasonable. Now let's talk about something that goes perfectly with those tomatoes. Number 7, pasta. All shapes, all brands. The situation's way more complicated than it looks on the surface. There's multiple factors all hitting at the same time. First off, there's durum wheat. That's the specific type of wheat they use to make quality pasta. Most of it gets grown in North Dakota and Montana. Last growing season? Severe drought conditions. Yields were way down. The wheat that did manage to get harvested had lower protein content than normal. When you've got lower protein, that means lower quality pasta. So manufacturers need even more wheat just to produce the same quality product they used to. Then, you've got transportation costs on top of that. Shipping expenses have gone through the roof. A trucking company operator told me their fuel expenses are up 42% compared to just 2 years ago. Then there's the whole packaging material situation. There's cardboard shortages, problems with adhesive supplies. All of that's creating production delays. Some manufacturers have actually been forced to slow down their production lines because they literally don't have enough boxes to package the finished product. Here's my strategy with this. I keep about 100 pounds of pasta, stored in different shapes. Long pasta like spaghetti and fettuccine. Short pasta like penne, rigatoni, and shells. Small pasta like orzo and ditalini. Different shapes just work better for different types of meals and sauces. It helps keep meals interesting when you're eating from what you've got stored. Storage is pretty straightforward. Just keep pasta in the original packaging if you're rotating through it regularly. For longer-term storage, transfer it to airtight containers or those food-grade storage buckets. Pasta lasts for years when you keep it dry. The price increases have been significant. About 18 months ago, a pound of name-brand pasta cost around $1.29. Now, it's consistently over $2. Some stores are charging $2.50. That's almost double what it used to be. Every time you buy pasta at current prices, you're basically protecting yourself against even higher prices down the road. Just buy extra boxes every trip. Get like 10 boxes, spread across different brands and shapes. Now we're about to hit something that's got genuine global implications. Number 6, cooking oils. Vegetable oil, canola oil, olive oil, all categories. This situation honestly has serious worldwide impact. Sunflower oil, which makes up a huge part of vegetable oil, comes mostly from Ukraine and Russia. The ongoing conflict over there has absolutely devastated production and their ability to export. That supply has basically just disappeared from international markets. So manufacturers shifted to using alternatives: soybean oil, canola oil, palm oil. But here's the fundamental problem with that. The demand for those alternative oils was already substantial to begin with. Now you're asking them to also replace millions and millions of gallons of missing sunflower oil on top of everything else. The production system just can't handle that much additional demand. Palm oil's got its own production issues going on in Indonesia and Malaysia. Labor shortages, weather disruptions. Soybean oil production in Argentina got severely impacted by drought conditions. Then add another factor on top of all that. These oils also get used for biofuel production. So when fuel prices go up, it actually becomes more profitable to convert vegetable oils into biodiesel rather than sell them for cooking. Someone who manages purchasing for a regional grocery chain told me cooking oil is currently one of the most challenging product categories for them to keep adequately stocked. They're getting allocation notices. And prices? They're just extraordinary right now. I've watched regular vegetable oil go from $3 for a large bottle up to over $8. Olive oil's even worse. A decent bottle that used to be $12 is now approaching $25. So here's what I did immediately when I learned about all this. I bought 30 gallons of various cooking oils, 10 gallons of vegetable oil, 10 gallons of canola, 5 gallons of olive oil, 5 gallons of coconut oil. That might sound excessive to you, but really think about how much oil you actually use. Cooking, baking, frying, making salad dressings. Oil is absolutely essential to food preparation. Storage is important with this stuff. Keep it in a cool, dark location. Heat and light exposure makes oil go rancid way faster. Vegetable and canola oil easily last a year, frequently 2 years. Olive oil lasts about 18 months. I'm constantly rotating through my inventory. Whenever I open a new bottle, I immediately go buy a replacement. Let me show you something that's both a protein source and super convenient. Number 5. Canned fish. Tuna, salmon, sardines, mackerel, all varieties. The challenges here are both environmental and logistical. Global fish populations are under really serious pressure right now. Overfishing, climate change, affecting ocean temperatures, migration patterns, shifting. Fish populations just aren't what they used to be. Tuna is getting more and more regulated. Fishing quotas are being reduced to try to prevent the population from collapsing completely. Fewer fish getting caught means fewer fish getting canned. Pretty straightforward. Salmon's even more complicated. Wild salmon populations have been declining for years now. Most canned salmon these days actually comes from farming operations, but salmon farming's got its own set of challenges. Disease outbreaks, environmental, regulations, the cost of feed going up. All of that either reduces production or increases costs substantially. Then there's the whole labor situation. Seafood processing is extremely labor-intensive work. A lot of these processing facilities are in remote areas, and they depend heavily on seasonal workers. Someone who manages operations at one of these processing plants told me they're running at about 70% of their normal capacity right now because they just can't recruit enough workers. Last week, I went to 3 different stores specifically to check their canned fish inventory. All 3 of them had noticeably reduced product selection. Some varieties were just completely out of stock. Prices have gone up dramatically. Canned tuna that used to be $1 per can is now $2.50 or more. Wild-caught salmon is getting close to $6 per can. Here's why you really need this in your food reserves, though. Canned fish is one of the most calorie-dense and protein-dense shelf-stable foods you can get. A single can of tuna has about 25 grams of protein in it. Salmon gives you those omega-3 fatty acids that are really critical for your health, and it requires absolutely zero preparation. You just open the can, and it's ready to eat right then and there. In a crisis situation where cooking might be difficult or maybe even impossible, canned fish becomes invaluable. I've got about 120 cans of various fish varieties stored right now. Mostly tuna, but also salmon, sardines, and mackerel. That investment was around $240, but when you think about it, that's 120 ready-to-eat, high-protein meals sitting there. Storage is simple. Just keep the cans in a cool, dry location. Canned fish easily lasts 3 to 5 years. Now let's talk about something that shows up on basically every preparedness list, but probably for reasons you're not expecting. Number 4. Rice. I get it. Rice shows up on every preparedness list that's ever been made. But listen to why the current situation is actually different this time. This isn't about people panic buying. This is about production capacity genuinely breaking down. India, the world's largest rice exporter. They banned exports of several rice varieties last year to protect their own domestic food security. That decision instantly removed millions of tons from international markets. Other countries tried to fill that gap: Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, but they just can't produce enough volume to replace what India was exporting. Now, you might be thinking the United States grows a lot of rice. We do. But American rice production is also under its own pressure. There's water shortages in California and Arkansas. Those are two major rice-producing states. Increased costs for fertilizer and fuel. A rice farmer in Arkansas told me their operational costs are up 38% compared to 3 years ago. But the price they're actually getting paid for their crop hasn't gone up proportionally. A 20-pound bag of rice that was $15 about a year ago is now over $22 in a lot of stores. Some premium varieties have literally doubled in price. Here's my strategy with rice. I keep about 300 pounds stored in different types. White rice for long-term storage because that stuff lasts decades when it's stored properly. Brown rice for better nutritional value, though it doesn't last quite as long. Then jasmine and basmati for variety because honestly, eating the exact same food every single day just kills morale. Storage is really critical with rice. For long-term storage, use those food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids. Add oxygen absorbers before you seal them up. That removes the oxygen and prevents insect infestation. When you store it that way, white rice lasts 30 years, or even more. Keep rotating your inventory. Buy rice consistently. Every shopping trip, just add 1 or 2 bags. Prices are not going down. Here's something that actually connects to several items we've already talked about. Number 3, powdered milk. This connects right back to that butter situation we covered. They're both dairy products dealing with similar pressures. Powdered milk production requires significant processing capacity and energy. As energy costs have gone up, production costs have just skyrocketed. Some manufacturers have actually reduced production because the profit margins are just too thin to make it worthwhile. But here's the bigger issue at play. International demand for powdered milk is surging right now, particularly from Asian and African markets, and that's diverting supply away from the United States domestic market. A lot of people don't keep powdered milk around because they think it tastes bad. And yeah, if you're drinking it straight after reconstituting it, it doesn't taste exactly the same as fresh milk. But here's the critical point most people miss. When you're using it in cooking and baking, you absolutely cannot tell the difference. Not at all. Here's how I store it. And this is important. Don't just leave it in that cardboard packaging it comes in. Cardboard absorbs moisture and lets air get in. Your powdered milk will clump up and spoil within just a few months. Transfer it immediately to Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, or use food-grade buckets with really tight sealing lids. When you store it properly, powdered milk lasts 15 to 20 years. Yeah, decades. I keep about 50 pounds in my reserves. That investment was around $150. Here's a practical tip for you. Try mixing half reconstituted powdered milk with half fresh milk when you're drinking it. Your household gradually gets used to the taste that way. Then when you actually need to use only powdered milk, the transition's not nearly as jarring. Start using powdered milk in all your cooking and baking right now. Pancakes, muffins, cakes, cream soups. It works perfectly fine. Let's talk about another staple protein source, Number 2, canned beans. All varieties. Black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, chickpeas, everything. Bean. Production requires a significant amount of water, and drought conditions in the key growing regions have really slashed yields. North Dakota grows a huge percentage of United States beans, and they got hit with serious drought conditions during the last growing season. Lower yields mean less supply making it to the market. That's pretty straightforward. But here's the processing bottleneck that makes it worse. Canning capacity is limited. There's only so many canning facilities out there, and they're all operating at maximum capacity, trying to meet demand across all product categories. When one product line runs into issues, it affects everything else because they're all competing for the same canning lines. Then you've got the aluminum can shortage on top of that. This affects all canned goods, obviously including beans. Labor is another huge factor here. Bean processing is really labor-intensive work. A procurement specialist told me their orders for canned beans are currently being fulfilled at about 70% of their requested volume. So that means for every 10 cases they order, they're getting 7. Here's why canned beans are so essential though. They're shelf-stable protein that requires almost no preparation at all. You just open the can, heat them up, and you've got a complete meal component right there. They're incredibly versatile too. You can make chili, soups, salads, burritos, rice, and beans combinations. A can of black beans that was 80 to 90 cents about 2 years ago is now $1.69 in my local stores. Some of the organic varieties are getting close to $3 per can. I've got about 200 cans of various beans stored right now. Black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, white beans. That investment was around $280. But when you think about it, that represents 200 protein-packed meal components just sitting there ready. Storage is really simple. Just keep the cans in a cool, dry location. Canned beans easily last 3 to 5 years. My strategy is just to buy 10 cans every single time I go shopping. Here's something you might not really think about much, but it's facing some serious challenges. Number 1, oats. Both rolled oats and instant oats. Oat production is concentrated in some very specific regions. Canada grows a massive percentage of the world's oats. The United States also grows oats, primarily in the upper Midwest. Both of those regions have been dealing with weather issues that have affected yields. Drought conditions in some areas, excessive rainfall in others. Either one of those conditions damages the crops. Oats also require very particular drying and processing. If the moisture content isn't exactly right, they spoil really quickly. Processing facilities have been struggling with equipment issues and labor shortages, and that's reduced their capacity to convert the harvested oats into the rolled oats or instant oats you actually buy at stores. Then add in the increased demand for oats. Oat milk has become extremely popular over the last few years, and that's diverted a significant portion of oat production away from traditional food products. I've noticed when I'm at stores that the oat sections are less stocked than they used to be. Some stores are down to just a couple of brands now. Prices have increased pretty noticeably. A large container of rolled oats that used to be $4 is now $6.50 or more. Here's why oats are really critical though. They're incredibly versatile. Obviously oatmeal for breakfast, but you can also make granola, use them in baking, grind them into oat flour, use them as a thickening agent for soups. Nutritionally, oats are excellent. High fiber, decent amount of protein, and they keep you feeling full for hours. In a survival situation, that sustained energy becomes really crucial. Oats last a long time when you store them properly. For long-term storage, put them in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers or in food-grade buckets. When you store them that way, they'll last 10 years or more. I keep about 100 pounds of oats, a mix of rolled oats and instant oats. That investment was around $60, but that represents literally hundreds of meals. So there you have it. The 11 products that are facing the most serious supply chain pressure right now. Oats, canned beans, powdered milk, rice, canned fish, cooking oils, pasta, canned tomato products, butter, coffee, and peanut butter. These aren't just random items I picked. These are the specific products that industry professionals are genuinely concerned about based on actual production data, allocation notices, and supply chain reports that most regular consumers never even see. Now, here's what you really need to understand about all this. I'm not telling you to panic. What I'm telling you is to prepare intelligently. And there's a huge difference between those two things. Panic buying just clears out shelves and creates artificial shortages that end up hurting everyone in the community. Intelligent preparation means you're buying extra consistently over time, you're rotating your inventory, and you're building up a buffer that protects your household without harming your community. Here's my challenge to you. Just pick 3 items from this list. That's it, just 3. Start right there. This week when you go shopping, pick up extra of those 3 items. Then next week, add 2 more items into your rotation. Within about a month, you'll have genuinely started building food security for your household. And here's the really important part about this approach. Even if nothing bad ever happens, even if somehow supply chains miraculously fix themselves tomorrow, you haven't actually lost anything. You're buying food that you're going to eat anyway, right? You're just buying it now at today's prices, instead of later at whatever higher prices end up being. That's not some kind of doomsday prepper mentality. That's just intelligent financial planning. But let me be completely straight with you about something. The people who are in positions where they understand what's genuinely happening in the supply infrastructure, they're not sitting around waiting to see what happens. They're taking action right now. The farmer I talked to has 6 months' worth of food stored. The logistics manager is actively building up a 1-year supply. The grocery procurement specialist told me her pantry honestly looks like a small distribution center at this point. These aren't conspiracy theorists or paranoid people. These are professionals who understand the system intimately from the inside, and they're seeing what's developing. So the real question isn't whether you should prepare or not. The question is whether you're going to act on the information you have right now, or whether you're just going to wait around and hope everything somehow resolves itself. Drop a comment down below and let me know which items you're planning to start stocking first. And if you haven't grabbed that free emergency food guide yet, the link's right down there below. 15 items, 2 full weeks of food, less than what it costs to get restaurant takeout. Go get it now. Prepare intelligently. Protect your household.